Daima Goku has completely changed the landscape of the Dragon Ball franchise, especially when it comes to Goku and Vegeta, as we saw them both obtain new transformations we've never witnessed from their characters, with Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and most notably Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Goku's newest and strongest form prior to Dragon Ball Super, but just how strong is a Super Saiyan 4, and how did Goku even achieve this transformation? Dragon Ball Daima Episode 18 shook the anime world as Goku Mini looked to have been given a power boost by Neva that gave us an almost mutative look at his anatomy, which led us to believe that because of Neva's magic, Goku was able to learn Super Saiyan 4. Well, by the end of the series finale, episode 20, it would more or less be confirmed that this might not necessarily be the case. At the end of episode 20, Goku would tell Vegeta because of their battle with Majin Buu, he began training harder than ever, and Super Saiyan 4 was, I guess, more or less created somewhere after the defeat of Kid Buu. However, it's important to remember that Goku never directly stated if he was able to achieve this form in full effect before this moment in Daima, as he even said that even though he was training towards this the whole time, he wasn't really too sure if it would even work. But even though he was extremely powerful with this new Super Saiyan 4 form of his, it didn't grant him an instant guaranteed win against Goma like we thought it would when he first debuted, or even when he was turned back into an adult for that matter. So in this video, we're gonna figure out exactly how strong the new Super Saiyan 4 Goku really is. Now, in my opinion, it's a little difficult to really gauge where Goku is strength-wise in Daima based off of the battle with Goma, because Goma's abilities and resilience with the third eye were pretty much a cheat code. We wouldn't even really learn about this all the way until after Goma went all giant on Super Saiyan 4 Goku, but because of the effects of the third eye, Goma wasn't losing any stamina and was getting constantly healed of any damage he took. Pretty unfair if you ask me, but we gotta make this final battle interesting somehow, right? Giant Goma was literally like a final boss in a video game, and they had to figure out how to get the permanent debuff on him. Thanks to this, even though it was painfully obvious that Super Saiyan 4 Goku and honestly even Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta were physically stronger than Goma and more powerful than him, they just couldn't overpower him in the long run until Arinsu told them about how to separate the third eye from him. Now, even though we've seen Goma box with Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and the Majins for that matter, because of his magic, I do think he might be slightly stronger than the versions of Majin Buu we saw in Dragon Ball Z, of course not counting Buu Tanks or Buhan, with the way he was able to fight against Super Saiyan 3 versions of both Goku and Vegeta. But again, his magic being a huge factor in these fights. Seeing as how he easily overpowered Super Saiyan 3 Goku Mini with his magic and constant healing, it's not hard to kinda scale him within Dragon Ball Z standards, but his magic is again what makes this so tricky. Super Saiyan 4 Goku, however, was a different story. Super Saiyan 4 Goku seemed on par, if not slightly stronger than Goma when he first transformed in his child body, but unfortunately he was already extremely exhausted by this point, so that combined with his small stature was pretty much a recipe for disaster, and very quickly. When he turned back into an adult, however, although he was still exhausted, Neva's magic unfortunately didn't heal him or give him any strength back, but it was at this point where we truly saw the change that Super Saiyan 4 had on Goku. Not only was he way more intense during the last encounter, but being able to tap into more power than his smaller body could handle was visibly apparent. Goma was getting manhandled for most of the battle. I mean, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta was clearly overpowering him had it not been for the infinite stamina, but at a certain point, it was very clear that Goku could have ended this fight in seconds if it wasn't for everything the third eye was doing for Goma. His full power Super Kamehameha stands as proof, as we saw it literally tear through Goma's torso like he was a sheet of paper, and did the same thing ripping a hole in the sky of the first demon world, which was something Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta's Final Flash was unable to do. One thing we do have to keep in mind though when we're trying to determine just how powerful this new form of Goku's is that no one in Dragon Ball Daima had displayed any usage of God Ki, and this is a major point. This is a huge differentiating factor between what we saw in Daima and what we potentially compare it to in Dragon Ball Super, because Super places what I like to call a glass ceiling between itself and Dragon Ball Daima. While all the powers that we saw in the conclusion of Dragon Ball Daima gives us this perception of potentially being comparable to very early events in Dragon Ball Super, there's still a really clear distinction that should be made. Super Saiyan 4 Goku at best, and once again this is all my personal opinion, could potentially be compared to Goku and Vegeta after they had experienced God Ki for the first time, but not necessarily them in their Super Saiyan God forms directly. I think this state is referred to as Saiyan Beyond God on the wiki and other reference material, but when they begin to actually utilize God Ki, it becomes an entirely different ballgame. While we don't know the specifics of what exactly Super Saiyan 4 Goku is still even after the end of Daima, especially now that Neva's magic seemed to be the final factor in pushing Goku to be able to achieve it, it's clear that there is no God Ki or any sort of divinity involved whatsoever. Also, there's still a ton of chatter around the community about possible misconceptions on if or how exactly Daima is canon to the official Dragon Ball Super story. But according to a recent statement by head producer Akio Iyoku, Dragon Ball Daima is a direct continuation of the Dragon Ball Z story following the Majin Buu arc, so that's some really good news to finally have confirmed. So technically speaking, until we're told otherwise, this kinda is confirmation that Dragon Ball Daima is placed somewhere between the end of Dragon Ball Z, well, directly after the end of Dragon Ball Z and sometime before Dragon Ball Super. The purpose of this video, of course, is not to talk about all of the inconsistencies, plot holes, and everything like that were created surrounding Super because of Daima, but it's just something to keep in mind. And if you guys want an entire video on everything that Daima kind of threw on us, retconned, and made us rethink, then I'll do that at some point in the future. Super Saiyan 3 Goku stating that this is currently his strongest form, and I just said that I wasn't going to talk about any plot holes or inconsistencies in this video, but this is one of the biggest and most important ones. Super Saiyan 3 Goku stating that this is currently his strongest form while he was battling Beerus at the beginning of Super does pose quite a few questions about Super Saiyan 4 and if Daima is directly canon to Super, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't have mattered either way. Just like if Vegeta chose to go Super Saiyan 3 against Beerus during Bulma's party, it would not have mattered in the slightest or made any difference. Beerus and God Ki are what I like to call the constants in current day Dragon Ball that kind of make scaling Super Saiyan 4 to anything in Dragon Ball Super useless, but if you wanted to, I guess, like get into the specifics of every single opponent that they faced in Super, then I'm sure that you could probably find a handful of adversaries that could have easily fallen to Super Saiyan 4 Goku and even Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta for that matter. Like, just for instance, Moro's henchmen from the prison, or maybe even the heaters before Gas was given that wish to be the strongest. As far as why we never saw this form in Dragon Ball Super though, well, some fans in the community have this running theory that Daima is another timeline separately from the Super timeline. Kinda like how we learned of the split timelines in the Android arc when Trunks was breaking all sorts of multiversal laws, going back and forth, and pretty much splintering off all of these different timelines. This is the reason why, if you guys didn't know this already, because it is easy to forget, that the Trunks that brought back the heart medicine for Goku and killed Frieza and King Cold is not the same Trunks that trained in the time chamber with Vegeta and attended the Cell games with everyone. But the thing is, with it being confirmed that Daima is literally a direct continuation of the events after the Majin Buu arc, and Goku even referencing their battle against Majin Buu in the last episode, I personally just can't ride with that theory and say that that's the case. I guess we'll just have to wait and see for the eventual full return of Dragon Ball Super sometime in the future, and hopefully any form of reference whatsoever to literally anything that happened in Daima to confirm that these two series actually do tie in with one another somewhere down the line. But I think that is gonna wrap it up for this one, guys. Just a really short video discussing Super Saiyan 4, how it now fits into the series, and what it could potentially mean for Dragon Ball in the future. Since God Ki is still the mainstay right now in Dragon Ball, and I don't think that that's gonna change anytime soon, it's really hard to see Super Saiyan 4 having any relevance in the Dragon Ball story past Daima, but as we saw with Daima, anything is possible, and don't count out anything just because it might sound crazy. Who knows? In the future, Goku might even revisit this form for whatever reason and somehow find a way to mix it with God Ki. Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken showed us that he's really creative when it comes to stuff like this, so once again, anything is possible.